All right, see if I can get my audio going here. Looks good. Try a quick share screen. Okay, desktop. 3. Preview. Okay. So that appears to be working. And position this here. Right. I'm gonna stop sharing. Oh, I can annotate. That's cool. Okay. Well, hey, thanks for joining us, y'all. Kind of the rundown, the plan is to start with a little bit of the why, like why we're gathering and what we're talking about. I want to briefly hear from some of you in terms of the experience that you've had with Church Online, and then I want to jump into some of the just give you some information and show you the version 4 and cover a few features of Church Online platform version 4. And there are a couple ways we can explore that. One of them will be just through the PDF, but another way will be we've got a rebroadcasting event starting here in about 25 minutes. And so we'll be able to just pull that up for those of you who want to. You can pull that up on another window and just kind of see how that works. If you aren't able to do that, I'll just do a share screen. You'll be able to see it on mine as well. Just to get started though, since October, we've offered a Church Online option, and in the middle of March, it all of a sudden became the only option. And we suspect it will remain the leading option for some time, while we all hope it's not the only option at some point. It appears to be the case for now. And so we've been discerning how do we do this well? What does it mean for us? What is God calling us to do in and through this thing called Church Online? So since ministry is so much about connecting people, echoing the gospel, magnifying God, I believe Church Online can focus on the same mission, the same focus. It can have that same intention just via the internet. So I really want to challenge us all to think, and I mean, you guys signed up for this, so you're on board, but really just want to name that this is indeed church. And I think that's a challenging thought for many, and just has taken and will take some more time, I think, for some folks to see it that way. But I really believe church has shifted, and it isn't our preference. We love being with people. We love to see people. We really believe that is what we're ultimately called to do, is to be together and to encourage one another that way. But this is a very viable option. And keep in mind, it's the only option at the moment. But for gathering the church. So I would say a couple more ways to view it is different lobby, same ministry. And that language comes from a video that from Life Church that put out about it. It's still about people. It's still about relationships. And in fact, there's one train of thought that challenged our thinking that meeting in person was actually engaging everyone the way we wanted them to anyway. And furthermore, we're choosing to embrace the notion that Church Online presents potentially a greater outreach opportunity for us right now. So, a question would be, who do you know that would never maybe set foot in a church building, but they'd click a link all day long and tune in to a website that's streaming one of our services? So taking that into consideration, it certainly presents some opportunities. And I would say there's one role we've selected to ramp up right now to help meet people online, and when pretty much they're most captive during our services, and that would be you guys, the online hosts. So it's kind of an exciting opportunity, and I'm hugely thankful to you guys for stepping into it and at least learning more, and for giving it a try. So the only other caveat I'll say is I'm going to keep calling this an experiment on many levels in terms of the how and some of the methods we're using. Having real results is something that comes over time. And so I think we're going to be learning together as we go through this. So just know that you're a part of that. So if you have input, if you have questions, if you have pushback, if you have concerns, just know that that is part of this process, and I totally welcome it. So I'm curious, I guess, having laid all that out, what has been your experience with Church Online so far? And what's maybe even what's changed your perception about it, if it has? Yeah, go ahead, Travis.
All right. Well, a few thoughts that popped into my head immediately was, I'm so glad we did it when we did. Mm-hmm. I remember just the pushback of people saying, why are we doing this? This is stupid. Nobody's going to watch this. We're all here anyway. And I just look back and say, holy cow, we would not be where we're at today had we not done that. So Graham, awesome. Thank you. Looking at just the sheer numbers is one thing, but that's not fair because everyone's forced to be online. What has been fascinating is the percentage of people that are engaged in the chat versus what it was. We were looking at before maybe 10% logged into the chat. Now we're looking north of half of the more than 50% are in the chat. And there's people engaging in chat that are the same people that said this is stupid and we should never do it. And so I think it's fun to see it go full circle.
Thanks, Travis. Other
Yeah.
thoughts?
Well, I'll just echo that, Travis, because I've been on this since we started. And so when you were having 6 people online, you thought it was really good. And now you've got 260 or something or more. So sometimes, like for me, it's a little hard to keep up with the chat at times, but it does help now that we have 2 people on. So Graham, thanks for doing that and for implementing a few other things since our last meeting. That's been very helpful. So.
Sure, yeah.
I think one of the learnings that I've had is that just the recognition that doing church online isn't the only activity people are doing online. So it's kind of like the first time you do something or first few times, it's kind of a novel thing. And like, oh, this is kind of cool. We're doing this video meeting thing. And now the bar is kind of up there because people are doing everything via video meeting. So I think it's getting a little bit more challenging to get people to talk because they're kind of probably, you know, wiped out of doing that all week. So it takes a little bit more than just, you know, good morning sometimes to get people to talk. So I think I found it helpful as I've tried a few things to get people more engaged of posing a more fun question or posing something that isn't as formal and, you know, add a little bit of humor in there. Cause I think people are used to kind of like dry work meetings and that's what they equate, you know, video stuff or chat stuff too. So making it more personal seems like something we kind of have to continue to do if we want to get people to respond or participate.
Yeah, that's really good. Looks like, Mary, you've got your hand up.
Whoa.
Let me unmute you first. Okay, go ahead. Oh,
I actually did that like 10 minutes ago. I raised my hand.
I'm
I was
sorry.
just testing the little icons. So I'll just fully confess that when we first started online, I was kind of like, what? Why are we encouraging people to isolate themselves? We're built for community. But in hindsight, I'm really thankful that nobody listened to me. Yeah. That we did move forward with it because yeah, it's amazing right now to be able to have this. But I would still I'm a people person and I need face-to-face to fill my tank. So that would be my preference, but I love that we have this and I love how you guys have done it so well. And I love the conversations that take place. And so, yeah, I'm a new convert. I'm sold out.
Awesome. Thanks, Mary. Yeah, Scott and Julie, you seem to want to say something too.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say I think I've loved having, yesterday was my first time of helping with the Facebook platform. And what I liked about that is actually being able to recognize the names.
Yeah,
and,
good call.
You know, it's just so beautiful because instead of just, you know, initials or whatever, so then it feels like you can make it more personal and personable. I do think that one of the things that would help, because I agree with you, Brett, like I think there's still a fair amount of people that aren't going to enter into conversation, or, you know, maybe there's less. And I think that I always have this questioning of myself, like how much is too much to ask, you know, and to intersperse in there, because when I'm worshiping like yesterday, I was like, I don't want to be doing this. I just want to worship, you know, and I'm sitting there with one hand on the keyboard and one hand up like this. And I'm like, oh, so, you know, so I think that's really challenging to think of them and not just of yourself. But I think it would be beneficial if whoever's teaching to maybe make that a practice that you once or twice throughout your message say, if you're watching online, you know, you might type in, you know, like to ask for a response, because then I think it's less pressure on the online host to try to get people to talk. They actually are soliciting the question for people. So.
And dovetailing off what Brett said earlier, and then I couldn't strongly second what Julie just said about the names. In an effort to make it more personable, it'd be nice maybe if we had pictures of the host, you know, just a face picture, kind of like Zoom. You know, we're sitting here, I get to see all you guys, and it connects. And so when Julie said that about the names, that was a home run, Julie.
Any other quick thoughts before we dive in? Oh,
In regards to Julie's comment about people not wanting to engage while they worship, I think everyone engages at their own level, at their own timing. And so I think people will self-select. There are people that want to engage during Mike's message, and there's people that just go full screen and they don't even see the chat anymore.
Yep.
And I think it's okay, because I think they're self-selecting what that experience will be for themselves.
Yep.
I think it's been interesting to see how the groups are different. I sometimes, like, early morning is really chatty, and then 10:30 is like yesterday's 10:30 was like super quiet. So I felt like I was talking to myself the entire time. It was a little weird. And then it was like, do I just quit talking? That was the one thing I wasn't really sure. Like, when do you just shut up and let it go?
Yeah. Okay, I think those are great comments, great questions as well. I imagine we'll get some more as we unpack this a little bit. Will, I'm curious if you have had experience with this from your previous church, or I guess the church you're still at now, but yeah, what's been your experience there?
Sorry. We had a different platform, but similar kind of structure. And, we had the prayer requests kind of thing. And yeah, people loved it. I think it was just a level of engagement that people were really ready for. And it seemed to really strike a chord with some folks. Similar thing like in worship, or because people are so used to like engaging in worship and then listening to the message. And so there was that kind of dynamic of like, even for hosts, should we be encouraging people to like talk during these times? And then also, I don't know if you guys have done the prayer request side of things, but that was one thing where people were asking, if people give a request, we just say then, okay, we're going to be praying for them, or there's a group, that is actively praying at that particular point. What seemed more natural to do was actually to type out our prayers, and that seemed like really quite a powerful thing to do in the moment, where you're literally typing out to somebody as you're praying for them. And so so it seemed to work pretty well. But yeah, I think we had just similar questions or reflections as I've heard here.
That's great. Yeah, I love that idea. I think that's really great. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to share the PDF document. If I can get this to work. All right, so let me know if you cannot see it. And then I'm curious, do you see my mouse moving around on it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you for bearing with me as I learn some new things. This document is really just to get us introduced to version 4, but I'm going to use it to get us into some concepts about hosting. So the first thing really is just the chat is where it's at. And this is based on an article, very brief article that Life Church put out, but it just kind of opens the door to what I believe the potential is within the chat arena. And I would say that keeping our focus on people and keeping our focus specifically on people who might be new or marginal kind of peripheral to the church would just help guide our language and our focus. So being very invitational, very welcoming, but also modeling a little bit of what engagement looks like. Angie, I think to your point, potentially there is a threshold of, okay, am I the only one saying all these things? Maybe I should slow down a bit and see if somebody else can help pace it. But I do think, and that's like the social IQ starts to come into play a little bit with this dynamic. Now, on the flip side, we've had times when, and I think it was especially Easter or the week before, a couple weeks before, where we were flooded with people engaging on the chat. And so it was like, okay, we need to cover bases. And that's where we started adding another host just to help, like somebody handle prayer requests, somebody handle posting links. and somebody handling the public chat a little bit more. So those dynamics come into play definitely as we go, but I want to just keep our focus on people. And there's opportunity. I guess the question here is, how can God use you to show, care, and represent God's hope, God's mercy, his grace to those attending church online? So it can be just an invitation. It can be a comment. It can be how you modeled your own engagement in worship. Any of those things could potentially do that. But I think if that's just a continuous question along the way for us, it kind of helps guide our heart and our approach. Jumping into the Church Online platform for a minute, I wanted to point out something a little bit kind of nitty gritty, and hang with me. Try not to tune out too much here, but definitely let me know if I'm getting too technical. We are currently using version 3, which has this link, churchonline.org. So it's ridgelife.churchonline.org. And that is currently where our church online page goes. So pretty soon we will be able to route that down to version 4, the version 4 link, and that will be the version then that everybody will see. Right now, though, it's kind of treated like 2 different platforms. So if you have a login password for the first one, you don't necessarily have one for the second one unless I migrated you over. So you'll know if you try that second link and you try typing in your email, your sign in, if it doesn't work, you might be too new to this and I haven't set you up in that. If you're really new, I had you go ahead and set up an account with that new one. So if that confuses you, I totally understand and we can get it worked out. But that's my briefest, shortest explanation of what's going on right now. In terms of timing, I would say within probably 2 weeks, we'll make the shift. They are updating some things that I've been waiting and watching for, and they've indicated that it'll be coming in the next couple weeks. So I'm hopeful that we could be right on track with that. Worst case, probably beginning of June, but I would say look for the shift here coming up. Any quick questions on all of that?
So for right now, we're going to be using version 3, like this Sunday.
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
Let's see if I can switch my format. Okay. I suppose I need to erase that arrow. All right, here we go. Having said that though, Scott, the other format, the other version of the other link is active and running. I'm putting the service links in both. So if you as a host are not signed in or you're not serving this Sunday in version 3, feel free to hop in version 4 and kind of start poking around a little bit. The service should be running there as well, and you can kind of see what's happening. The one caveat is I just need to remember to give you the host's access. So let me know if you're not seeing tonight, especially if you try logging in, let me know if you're not seeing the host tools, and that would tell us whether or not you're set up as a host. Switching down to page 02, I'm looking at the top left corner. This is what the host tools look like. So the host chat is now in the middle column, and the public chat is way on the far right. And so if you're used to version 3, that is flipped. In this case, puts it in the middle, the host chat. This just allows you to chat with other hosts. I apologize if you can hear my dog barking. There might be thunderous noises going by overhead here. I'm in our basement storage room. So the public chat on the far right is really what everybody sees. The host chat is just what you and other hosts or other volunteers that we've given access to this will see. And then on the left is usually all the things that the tools that you can use. I'll get into a couple of these in a moment. Going to the next page, This version introduces something called moments. And I would say this is probably the best feature of the new version. Moments give you as a host tools to just drop in the chat and you can get immediate responses from people. Another cool feature is one of the moments is we can pre-type some quotes, for example, a couple quotes from Mike. There will be an option to hit share. People can share right away on their social media that this is the quote from the sermon, and it's all kind of formatted nice. There could be a connect button. So you, instead of typing out, hey, here's where to go for the connect card, it's just clicking the moment and that whole thing drops in as something for people to click on. You can see here, request prayer, you know, raise a hand if I commit my life to Jesus, give button. Yes, I'd like to give now. Yeah, I see a hand, some people clapping there. That's great. These are really, I would say, wins for us as a host, because in my mind, it keeps us more focused on people and less worried about where the links are and what the exact things are we're supposed to say in those comments. You'll see a couple more now. Since I put this packet together, there's a couple more that we've added. So you'll see that here in a little bit when we tune into the live service. Here's a little bit more about moments. So now I'm on page 04. When you're in the host tools page, off to the left, you can see this star and then the heading called moments. This gives you access to these moments. What you'll do is you'll just click the one you want. You'll actually click the word post. It drops it in over here like this. And then it gives people the options. Depending on the moment, it will have different options. In this case, I commit my life to Jesus. You can hit raise your hand or you can hit dismiss as a user. And I think some of these will have like a little timer. And when the time runs out, then it automatically dismisses it. So it doesn't clutter up the public chat too much if people aren't doing anything with it. And actually the individual user then has the choice to do what they want with it. So it's kind of nice in that regard. Couple more things on this version and then we'll get some questions. On page 05, there are a couple more features from this left sidebar. So we've got the host info. These are all the links and comments that we've been giving you all along in the host notes. So it's kind of, they call it host info now. The notes actually refer to user notes. So these are things that users will be able to see. And they can even, I don't know if you've noticed, but you can even type into this field and it will change the information. I think the events will start out with the notes that I've put in there and then users can go from there and change it. And I don't think it affects everybody else's. All right, and then page 6 here just shows the prayer request process. So I just want to show this quickly. If someone clicks on live prayer under their video player, and that's just kind of a little kind of a widget that sits there, you'll see this notification pop up right here in the host chat. So it says Gus requested prayer. If you as a host want to accept that, you can hit accept, and then it takes you into, this is next page, page 7. It takes you into this window here on the left. So now this is like your direct chat. It's like your private conversation with just that user, where you can now ask Gus what he needs prayer for. He says, whatever he says, I guess he's praying for this coronavirus to be over. And then he decides he's gonna leave. So he clicks leave. What I found tricky with this is they have to find this leave button in the corner. And so I'm hoping at some point that they make that like blinking or something so people don't just get stuck in a chat, in a prayer chat. However, I believe that once you click leave, then you can close it out. So Oh yeah, and here's an example of what they'll see. So the user can leave the one-on-one chat by clicking leave in the top right corner. And again, if it's a short chat, they're just seeing what's down here. But then there's this confirmation. Are you sure you want to leave your chat? Yeah. End your chat with Graham? Yes. So the same thing happens with the host. If you click leave, it pops up with a little question. You sure you want to leave your chat with Gus? And then you can click leave. Any questions from you guys about the moments and the prayer requests and host tools?
Graham, were you saying when we hit as a host, we hit leave, that it would leave for the user as well, or just for us?
I believe it will leave for the user as well. If not, I feel like that might be a little clunky. And yet, yeah, I suppose if they don't leave, it's possible it just stays in your host chat as a new request. But I'll try to do some more digging on that. I suppose we could test it out even here in a little bit to see what happens.
Graham, can I ask you a question? What do you do if you're posting on Facebook and you've got all those notes? Because I was struggling yesterday with being able to copy and paste those when you're in Facebook, because I'm using just my laptop and I don't have two screens or anything that I can.
Yeah.
Any quick tips that anybody's used?
I think that's a great question. We'll cover a little bit more with Facebook in a bit, but I would say that yes, that is a bit of a challenge with Facebook, except that I also view Facebook a little bit more as an outreach, and even more so than Church Online. While I think they both would be great for being an outreach, I think it's okay to have Facebook being treated a little bit less formal, in terms of the links and things. I would say definitely make invitations to things, but probably really more of the highlights, kind of the main things that stick out in your mind. And we can probably refine that process and figure out a way to get that to work better. Like maybe a chat, a Facebook chat that has all the notes in it. I could just send that to those on Facebook who are going to be hosting. So there are a couple ways we could look into, but yeah, that's a quick answer.
Hey, Graham.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I've done often is that I have an Apple, but there's apps for Windows. Windows may actually have one built in, but Apple has Better Snap Tool. Mm. It's an app where you can just grab a window and pull it, and it locks in exactly half the screen on the right, and you grab half the screen on the left. And so you create two separate windows without having to mess with the arrows and size them and pulling. And then you can resize them very easily. But Julie, that's what I do if I'm in a situation like that, where I can grab one thing, put it here, the other thing, put it here, and it's perfect.
Yeah, it's a good tip.
Okay.
Yeah, the other thing I did on Sunday I have a Windows machine, but you can Alt-Tab and it'll switch you back and forth between the windows without having to minimize and move and rearrange stuff. Kind of a shortcut.
Marvelous.
Yeah, Command Tab for Apple users. Great tip. The direct chat works very similar to the prayer chat, by the way. Somebody will, I think it's actually initiated by you as a host. So you would go to somebody's name and select them. I'm not seeing the double dots here. So when we go into the live example, we'll double check that. Not sure if it's 3 dots or if you have to type in their name, but then it will appear here once you're in the direct chat. It'll appear on your left column there. I recognize that some of this might look a little bit different if you're using an iPad, so we'll have to experiment with that a little bit. I would encourage you, if you are going to use an iPad to be a host, to go ahead and try it before you're scheduled, just so you can kind of see where the features are located. I think this version is more friendly to mobile, so I believe all the tools are there. It's just might be a matter of getting used to it and figuring out instead of clicking, you got to tap here and there and whatnot. Other comments or questions?
Oh, I did have a question about just prayer requests in general. I know, like, I had a prayer request on Sunday, and that when I mentioned it to you, you had said they were asking for it to be confidential. And then long after service, it occurred to me that you were the only one that I told about it. So I didn't know if, like, do we need to send an email to the prayer email every Sunday and say, these are the 3 people that asked for prayer and this is what they needed? Or I wasn't sure if you were tracking any of that, or how we need to handle that.
I think that's a really good question, Angie. And I wouldn't say that we've landed on a formal process, but any chance we have to maintain the conversation, we'll take the chance. So yeah, Julie, do you have further thoughts on that?
I think it's really good. And I loved Will's suggestion, like, let's just pray for them right there. So type in a prayer for them, feel confident in that, to pray for them right then, and finish it with an amen. And then also, would you like me to also forward this to our prayer team? You could also add that.
Oh, that's a good idea.
If you have time. I think sometimes it depends on if you're also managing things by yourself, but if you have time, you could also ask that, in which case then yes, you should send it to Community Care, Bridge Life, or whatever that link is.
Can we get a little bit of guidance? I had a situation yesterday where somebody requested a prayer. I took it. I asked them how I could pray for them. Nothing. Don't know if they were there, if they left. I don't know. So after a time, I was kind of like, what do I do here? This is awkward. So I typed out a general prayer, and I posted a general prayer that I thought might have been appropriate for somebody that's just asking for prayer. Is that fair?
But I think that's a great idea. Yeah, kind of to Will's point too, about just kind of what feels natural is to type out the prayer. And even in that setting, I mean, sure, potentially I think people are clicking around and don't realize they've entered a prayer request. So they might be trying to figure out how to get out of it. But at the same, in which case maybe you could be like, if you've entered this prayer by accident, maybe it's not an accident. No. But you could help them find the link or the button, or in your case, say that prayer. I think that's fantastic. Or just let it linger for a bit and then close it. I think that's okay too. I'm going to put a link in the chat here. And this is to the new version. So there's a service going on right now, a rebroadcast on the new version. If you don't have a login, totally fine. You just won't be able to see all of the host tools, but I'll show you on the screen here as well. So what I want to do for just a few minutes is just point out, with something live happening, maybe a couple of you guys engaging, kind of what this looks like. So let me go ahead and switch what I'm sharing. If I can. Let's call that desktop 3. Okay, are you guys seeing this window now with a playing video, some trivia?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In the top left corner are 3 little lines, and this is a lot of apps use this. It's a way to get into the settings or a login or the menu. So this would be where you could click login if you have one and sign in. I'm just going to hold off before I do, so you can see what the user sees. Notice that now with this new version, I can begin chatting. Let's see if it pops up with something. Okay, it's remembering me as Gus last time. I believe it'll ask you what you want your nickname to be once you start typing. So it's a little easier, and I think more inviting to have people go ahead and start chatting. I'm not sure. Do Do you guys see the hi? Like, do you see what the Gus just typed?
Mhm.
Okay. And is that, so potentially, you know, the general public might be able to see that. Right here at the bottom is the tab called Notes. And so any user can just hit that and see the notes, Bible obviously, and then the schedule shows the upcoming rebroadcasts. If you're on this, feel free to type a couple things. We'll just kind of put a few things in here to work with. And I'll go ahead and sign in so that you're also seeing the host tools here in a moment for those of you who aren't looking at this on your own device. All right, so now we're seeing that the video is playing. We've got the host information on the left, the links and tools that you need, and then host chat in the middle. Thanks to Brett, he's testing it out. And then the public chat on the right. So now it's listing me as Graham/host. So that's because I signed in, whereas before I was just Gus. Not that Gus is any less important. So on the left, I'm going to go ahead and click on moments so you can see a couple of these and how they work. These are the moments we have listed for this service, and we can specify based on the event which moments we want available for the hosts. I've got several in the connect category. I've got quotes. I've got an invite option. And so I'm just going to go ahead and post a couple of these in this public chat, and I want to just kind of talk through it. So connection card, I'm going to click post. Now you should see it in your public chat. If you hit continue, it would take you to a link. And in this case, it pops up with an iframe that allows people to actually fill out their information right there while they're watching the service.
Wow.
Yeah, I think this is a huge win.
So huge.
And that's depending on the device and depending on the forms that we have built on our website, this will work smoothly or not. If anybody could, you know, we should, believe it or not, I have not tried to do that on my phone. So if anybody's got access, you did? Okay.
Yeah, but now I'm like, okay, how do I go back? When I press back, it takes me to a podcast I was listening to.
So yeah, I think iframes, Brett, you might know more. I think iframes can be tricky sometimes on the mobile app.
There was an X. There was an X up at the top right.
Okay.
So I clicked that and it went back to the chat.
Super. All right, let's try the salvation moment. So, you know, maybe Mike is getting ready to pray. He's really honing in on some deep thoughts. So we're going to go ahead and ask people if they commit their lives to Christ. Most of these we can edit the wording, but I think that one we can't because it's translated into so many languages that they have only, a few ways to say it in order to keep it consistent. I think at some point they're going to provide more variability with those. So that's something that might be changing soon.
Where did it post at, Graham? I don't see it.
Yeah, that one seemed to run out quickly. Let's try it again. So I commit my life to Christ. Okay, now it should pop up. And then we got a couple people raising their hands. I went ahead and raised mine. And then notice it's followed by,
Nice.
You're beginning a new life with Christ. Connect with us. So again, if you click that, now it pops up with another form that says, we're glad you're here, fill it. And so this is the connection card.
Mm-hmm.
People could obviously X out of that and then just get back to the service, but it shows you the options we have and how it works.
That one would be great to actually change the language a little to say, thank you so much for, we join with you in celebrating that you committed your life to Christ. And, maybe then we can send them something like, what is a small booklet, like one of the Alpha books or something, just to be able to follow up with them.
I love that.
That does feel like a separate form. I mean, if I took an action versus just generally being new, that does feel like a new form we could send them to as a follow-up link.
Yeah. Okay. I love that idea. A couple more here. This one is a connect post. So we're going to say, yes, I am new and want to learn more about the Ridge. So connect, if you hit continue now, you'll go to the more page, which is just a kind of a temporary page we set up just to grab the most pertinent information for people who might be new or want to learn more. Right Now Media, here's an example of another thing. So we can put any URL in these connect buttons. And so we might say, hey, look, let's send them a direct link right to where they can log in and get that free account. Let's look at the give moment. So again, we can word it a number of ways. If you click give here, this one actually launches a new page because there's plenty, to probably take some time from people to look at and figure it out. I would say if we can figure out a really fast option here to go directly to, potentially there's something like the text to give or whatever where people can then deal with the information a little bit later, but we already have contact with them going, then in my mind, that makes most sense. But I'd love to hear more of your ideas, Travis, too, on that. And then I would say one of the best features that might take a little time to get sorted out is this quote option, where we can capture some of the quotes that, Mike's message or otherwise, would be compelling for people, and then post them here and allow people to share them in the platform that they want. So I'm pretty excited about that, provided we can type up some quotes ahead of time and get a few things in there to use.
Yeah, that is amazing. Wow.
Invite. I don't think I've covered an invite one. So this just, let's see, I believe it goes to, okay. Yeah. So it pops up with some options to share and invite somebody to this. Let's just click the email one and see what happens. Okay. So it looks like it's populating. Yeah, it just opened up my email with a link to this page, the online page. And it says, service is live at Prairie Ridge Church. Join me. So, and I believe in the settings, we can adjust that wording. So again, a pretty cool way to quickly get more people aware that the service is on and that you're inviting them to join you. So any questions or further thoughts about the moments?
Great. Wow.
I'd like to know how the quote part works. If it's something we can do on the fly, or if we have to have them set up ahead of time. Is that where you can type it in right there? Can you change that wording?
It doesn't appear as though I can. In the admin section is where I found the moments that I was able to type in. So potentially you guys might not all have access to that.
My guess is that Mike will tip us off a little bit on some of those key phrases that we can use, and hopefully he's pretty set on how he's probably going to word them.
Yeah, I mean, he sends us his script, so that would certainly be a job for somebody who wants to kind of comb through it ahead of time and to just type up a few quotes. They're really easy to drop in moments. It would just be getting them, extracted from his message. He's amazingly close on the wording. So when he delivers, it's like, I mean, it's almost word for word, with the exception he has kind of a shorthand in some portions of his script that he works off of. But we can, figure that out and get it plugged in and just kind of tweak it a bit. Plus, at the moment, we're still pre-recording. So to our advantage, we could kind of listen through it and get those in there. While we're in this administrative section, Brett, you might be interested to see this, but they've got some great integrations built in. So for tracking some analytics. Certainly gives us some more tools to work with now.
Yeah, that'd help us know what links people are finding or utilizing. So which ones are popular, and if we have any kind of email links or secondary pages as far as signing up for alpha or getting into an online group, we'd be able to track, how often people are doing that for certain services or other times. So that'd be good information to have, to know what's popular and what wording works and stuff like that. I was also going to mention real quick, when you showed clicking on sharing via email, just one kind of common confusion or misunderstanding of some of the things that happen. Same thing with any website. Whenever you click on email as an option, it's going to try to open whatever your computer has set as the default email. So for those that use Gmail on a Windows or a Mac, it might try to open Outlook or Mail or whatever. So if anyone ever has an issue with that one, it's better just to grab the link that's next to it and then paste it into whatever email you use. If you're using a webmail, it's not going to know to go to your browser and choose Gmail. It's going to try to open the app on your computer that's the default.
Yeah, great tip. Okay, a couple questions came in on the chat with Zoom, so I just want to address those. Oh, and Debbie canceled her prayer request, it looks like, but thanks for trying that, Mary and Debbie. I did see it pop up. It looked like none of us were available to pray with you, so that's too bad. I hope you won't give up on us. I suppose we could then hop in the public chat and say, if you need prayer, feel free to email.
How rude.
However, next time you do that, let's just see. And I was just going to try. Okay, there's Debbie. Okay, so if I click on Debbie's name in the public chat, I see that there are 3 options now. I can mute you, delete you, or chat with you. And chat, I guess, opens up the direct chat. So now, Debbie, you'll see that we can have that conversation. And while she's in that chat, I can accept Mary's prayer request. See in this top left here?
Mm-hmm.
I've got both of them going on, kind of in this one-on-one conversation. So if I click Debbie, I can, type that prayer, and then I can click over to Mary, and I can communicate with her as well. So up in this top left, I don't know what the limit is, like how many you can enter into at once, but it's probably several. So that's good to know how that works. So Debbie or Mary, why don't you tell us what you see here when I click leave?
Oh, it says Graham, the host, has left the chat.
Okay. Are you still in it?
Uh-huh, I'm in it still.
All right, so you have a leave option as well at that point.
I do.
Okay. That is helpful to know. So yeah, that answers that question, Brett, from earlier. Will it cancel both of your chats, or just the person clicking? So it sounds like it's just the person clicking the leave button. A couple other questions. Location statistics. Version 3 is the one that has the map, even though we weren't using that feature because of the format we were using. But yes, looks like Brett answered the question about analytics. So it gives us some limited information about that, depending on what people have supplied us in terms of their information. So, yep, we'll know a little bit more than we do now, I think. And the way we track our analytics through our website, has been really insightful. So it's remarkable what trends we can see from that. So yeah, that's a little bit more nerdy stuff, but if anything, let it reassure the rest of you that it helps us know a little bit more about who all we're dealing with and their interests and what's going on, and maybe at some point we'll package some of that information together in a way that helps the hosts know a little bit more about our audience and what's going on. One of the questions that came up earlier was a little bit more about the practical side of hosting, where you jump on, you hit your welcome message, and then you're like, oh, okay, we've got 2 or 3 of us. Who's going to do what? It certainly doesn't look great if all, 3 of you or 2 of you start posting links like, here's how to give. And, just in terms of just conveying organization, like, word for word, if you posting the comments in the chat and both of you do it, it's like, oh, okay, they're clearly copying and pasting. Yeah. So not a crime. It just might look more personal for us to sort out who's doing that. So when you hop on as a host when you're scheduled, if I haven't specified who the lead host is, I would just work it out with the host and say, hey, how about you handle more of the prayer requests and I'll handle more of the like the links, the connect links, and then both of you can interact in the public chat. So those are kind of the 2 main things that I would sort out. But do you guys have other thoughts on how you'd want to see that organized?
I think, well, Graham, gosh, that would be less work for you if we just did, because you're already spending a huge amount of time on this every day. So maybe if we just set that up as a protocol that you would go into the host chat spot, mm-hmm. and whoever maybe is in there first would just say, hey, how about I take this, and you wait until everybody's on. And I think that seems reasonable. Mm-hmm. And you did that yesterday on Facebook. You just said, how about I do this and you did this. So mm-hmm. that worked.
Hey, Graham.
Go ahead, Deb.
Is there a way that we can see who's hosting with us on, what's it called? Design Center, Plan Center, or something?
Planning Center, yeah.
Planning Center.
Yes, I believe I've set you guys all up as viewers, which means if you go in and look at your service you're scheduled for, you should be able to see who else is also listed. Another way to do that, this version. Okay, yeah, I'm not seeing, because in the old version you could do a drop down right here that would show you other hosts that are currently signed in. So, but that would assume that they've already, hopped on with you. So I would say with Planning Center, that'd probably be the best place to go for that. Mm-hmm. And with Planning Center, I would encourage you all to just set up your reminders and use the mobile app, use notifications for that, just so that you aren't missing it. For the most part, I've been also sending out an email reminding everybody about it, and also the host notes. But Planning Center is a great way especially to let me know, hey, I can't serve on next Sunday, so you can just hit decline. It'll send me a note, and I can get somebody else in your slot for that.
I noticed that you could now just schedule yourself.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah, I did that.
Which is really nice. Yeah.
Seemed to me, though, that the schedule was out there for quite a ways. I mean, I couldn't sign up for anything until like June 10th or whatever a Sunday is in June.
Yeah, and it might only give you two spots open. I can add you as a third host on a couple services coming up, especially brand new people to it. I want to give you the chance to, be in with the hosts and have access to the host chat, but don't feel the pressure, to enter into the conversation. I mean, most of you guys are pretty natural at talking and typing, so not a big deal there. It's more just giving you a chance to see how it's playing out and focusing in on what's being said and the flow.
That would be actually kind of awesome to be able to sit in on an option.
Yeah, and Brett sent the screenshot in the chat, so it just shows the names listed for the services based on the time. So, you know, this one is 9 a.m. CHOP is Church Online Platform. So that's the one we're looking at here. And then online host Facebook is specified here. This might be a good time just to mention a couple things about Facebook before we wrap up this session. And so I'm just going to scroll my document down. Is this still being shared? Are you guys seeing this scrolling?
Yep.
Okay. We're currently using Facebook Premiere, which acts kind of like a live event, but it's a pre-recorded video that we've uploaded. In a couple weeks, we're going to shift back to live streaming on Sunday mornings. When we do that, we will be going live on Facebook as a live event and probably at the 9 o'clock time. So then 10:30 folks will probably be rewatching the 9 o'clock, or we'll be really promoting those folks to come over to Church Online platform. We haven't, I would call this an experiment still, but at the moment we'll probably start with only live streaming the 9 o'clock and then rebroadcasting it at 10:30. At some point in the near future, we'll live stream both, but I just wanted to clear up that that's kind of how we plan to start this. When we do, we hope to be able to figure out, and I know Facebook has an option to label users as hosts. So in this case, you know, Mary, I think Mary, you probably have access to be to use the church account, but you might also, and Julie and I kind of played around with this on Sunday as well. In the top corner, let's see, yeah, in the chat on Facebook there, the comments in the top right-hand corner, next to the share button is an option to change like which perspective you're commenting from. So in this case, it's the Ridge. If I hit this drop down and change it to my personal account, then I can comment as Graham, or I can switch back and comment as Prairie Ridge. So we kind of toyed around with that a little bit. I posted some of the links in the comments as Prairie Ridge. And then if I saw somebody, you know, one of my friends, I switched back to Graham and I was like, hey, you know, great to see you online today. I think that works fairly smoothly. However, we can also set you up, say Mary, as your personal account as being a host. And so it'll have a little badge basically that shows up next to the person's name, and it verifies them as a host. So I'm just going to drag this image over, and you can see this church, Eternity Church, was using that on Sunday. And can you see that little host badge right there above Faith's name? So somehow she was set up as a host for this event, and it kind of, I don't know, validates the things that you're saying and that you're part of it. So until then,
to Scott's point, it puts a face with a, you know, just makes it feel more personal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What I've been doing the last couple weeks is, until then, I figured that host thing out, is basically just putting a comment in there from the church's account that says, hey, welcome, I'm glad you're with us. We're going to have a couple people hosting today. You know, Julie and Angie are going to be answering some of your questions today. So in a way, it just gives you permission to be commenting a lot and adding information. And that way people aren't like thinking, oh, wow, who is this person that's doing all this? And if I remember, I'll hit the pin comment so it always appears, you know, on somebody's screen, especially when they first tune in and they just signed up, realize they just joined the service, they would see that comment first. So it's kind of a nice feature about Facebook. One thing I'll say about Facebook is I will treat this as optional for you guys. Not everybody has a Facebook account. We won't require that you host on Facebook. I definitely want everybody, all of our hosts, to get to know Church Online platform and really use that one in rotation. but I'll have the Facebook kind of as an optional. And for those of you who have an account and want to dive in on that, I really appreciate that. I would say it's a bit of a frontier for us, but a huge opportunity. And then the other thing I'll do is I'll try to schedule one per service, or at least one per week, somebody who has access to the church account who can post kind of those more church perspective comments or links. And there aren't too many. I wouldn't do too many from the church, but then that way that's getting covered and the rest of it can be more personal and more, and I mean, the church can be personal too. It's just weird if you're using the church account and saying, yeah, my kids were just running through, because then people are like, oh, we don't know, you know, you're listed as Prairie Ridge Church, but your kids are running through it. So it tends to be a little bit confusing, I think, and more personal if you can just say those kind of comments from your own account. So any other questions or thoughts about Facebook or concerns you guys might have run into already?
The only thing I noticed about Facebook on Sunday was that it's a little harder to do the background chat. Like Graham had sent me a message in Messenger, and I had the service on full screen, and then I ended up like chatting with him in Messenger on my phone while I was posting on the computer. So it was a little more complicated than having all of it in one screen.
Yeah, I think that is a bit of a dilemma. I did find that if I hit chat during the video, and I'm not sure if it'll pop up here, but it would put, just pop.
It does that. I don't know why it didn't on Sunday.
Yeah, so it would just pop it up right there, right over the video as it was playing. So that's one way, but yeah, I can see the dilemma, especially if you're also juggling the host tools being on one screen.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have a window for the video and then be able to see the comments depending on your device. Facebook can kind of have the comments hidden, you know, so you have to kind of turn them back on to get them out. As we wrap up, I just want to hear from a couple of you, any thoughts you have about how to engage people online, whether it's Facebook or Church Online. What are you seeing about things, comments that or questions you can pose that have actually gotten people engaging?
I think just like the general, what was the best part of your weekend, or like non-threatening, not deep thought, something anybody could answer, but it's not, I would say it's just person to person, just relational. It's not overly churchy in nature. It's not, it doesn't require deep knowledge of something, but just generally like, I'm interested in what's going on in your life, and everyone has something that was happening this weekend. So it doesn't require you to know anything about them either, but something a little bit more non-typical, but it's not a yes or no question, I think has been successful in getting people to respond with something that you can build upon.
I love Travis's question. He always seems to ask, where outside of Central Iowa are you tuning in from? Sometimes you get great response, sometimes you don't. I think a cool one would be anywhere outside of Ankeny. Might engage a few more people.
Yeah, I think that question used to get a lot better feedback. So I used to ask, where are you tuning in from? Because there's always a story.
Yeah.
Now the story is we're in quarantine, so it's not as fascinating. But whenever somebody's logged in, especially if they're a Ridger, and you ask the question, where are you tuning in from? There's always a fascinating story behind it, and they're usually more than happy to share. So the feedback to that question has died down significantly because most people are there for the same reason. But I think big picture, once we get past COVID-19, that question creates a lot of fun conversation.
Another question might be, is this your first time tuning in? live stream.
Yeah. It's a good thought.
Any first timers here?
I still like the question, where are you tuning in from? Even though everyone is, on for a specific reason. Mostly because, like, I have kind of built a little bit of a relationship with Alan's parents, because they are on quite frequently. And I'm like, yay, our Indiana family is online and stuff. So I still ask that question quite frequently, just to see. And the last time I was on, there was someone from overseas on. So
Yeah, there's a dude from Ghana that tunes in regularly. I think his name is Ahmad.
Ahmed.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm kind of the same way, Debbie, with him as you are with Alan's parents. It's just fun to engage and say, oh, it's so good to see you again. Thanks for coming back. How was your week?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good to specify what city are you tuning in from, because I kept asking, where are you tuning in from? I kept getting the living room.
The living room. I was on that week with you, Brett. That was funny.
And the next person goes, yeah, the living room. I'm like, okay, we started a trend. I need to be.
That was funny.
I think it's interesting, initially too, you get such a wide variety of people in terms of just like, are they being really surfacey and funny, or are they being deep? Are they being, and you're just going to have it all. And at first I was like, oh, ooh, that was really sarcastic. I wonder if that was off-putting for somebody. And yet, as this has gone on, I'm just like, this is the church, that we're just such a smattering of people, and that's what makes it beautiful. So even for the occasional deep thought, feel free to plop it in. Like, I love the variety of our comments today, or, just, I guess, reinforce the beauty of the gathering in some way. And, maybe don't go too deep in that moment, but it kind of names and might diffuse for people, especially the ones who are having a little bit of a harder time seeing this as church. It might give just a little bit more of that nugget of love, like, yes, this is church, and we're all gathering, and it's fun to see the variety being represented. I'm going to put a couple more links in the chat, and then we're going to sign off. I want to drop these in here as possible places for ideas, where you could get some ideas. And I'm just putting a couple links in here of churches that run rebroadcasts like every hour or every couple hours. And what I find fascinating about these is you can see such a wide variety of comments in the chat, including, what the hosts are saying. So feel free to explore these. There's one more that I'll put in here. And if any of you come across some thoughts or ideas with that, feel free to share with me, and I can put them in the next email or in the host notes sometime. But I have found this to be fascinating. And, maybe you'll enjoy just attending some of these services, but I would encourage you to just check it out and hop in the chat, give yourself a nickname, and just kind of see what the conversation is like. I think, for one, it'll be a very wide variety, but potentially, and what I'm going for here is look for the comments or the questions that you feel could really be a helpful tool for us as hosts to kind of to do what we're trying to do, and that is to connect with people and to really magnify God in this process. So I'd love for us to be sharing more of those with one another and trying to use more of those. Because this is so new, it's hard to just think, okay, something I would say in front of a group of people, can I say it in the chat, and would it be just as meaningful, and would it draw a conversation back? And so maybe we'll get some ideas from these online services. Any other thoughts that any of you have before we wrap it up?
Hey, Graham. Is
Go
there
ahead.
a place where we could capture some of that stuff and keep it together, just like a record of it or for a reference?
What I'll propose in the short term is that if you scroll to the bottom of the host notes, I'll just put a few tips and quotes and things down there. The idea being that at the top, I want to stay that area to stay focused to the main links you need for the public chat. But if you scroll down to the bottom, you're looking for some of these ideas. I'll put some training tips and maybe some of these ideas that you guys are sending in. Well, I really appreciate all of you spending some time with me. We have built our team from about, I think a couple months ago, I think we had maybe five or six of us. We have over 15 on the roster, I think maybe 18 by next week. And then I would say my goal at this point is 24 so that we can be operating in each of the spaces without having to schedule everybody, weekly or every other week. So I really appreciate some of you doing this quite often, and just know that part of building the team is helping to spread that out a bit. But I hope that the frequency of this is just helping us kind of practice it and figure it out some more, find some good, some good tools, some good comments to put in there and try to get the conversations going. So thanks again for all you're doing.
Thanks for all you've done.
Yep. It's been fun. So we'll see what transpires here. I will say that as we reopen with public services, whenever that is, I do see this being an ongoing tool. So certainly there will be shifting happening one way or another, but we're doing our best to be nimble in that process. And I would say my biggest challenge as a creative director and producer is answering the question, how do we continue to engage our community, our church in what we have to offer? And that is this love and grace of the Lord Jesus Christ. We have been dispersed. We have been decentralized as a church. And I just pray that we at some point will gather back together, but wow, we have an opportunity. So yeah, that's the burden, I guess, that I'm continuing to pray about, and invite you guys to pray with me on that. And I'll just close this session with prayer as well, and we can sign off after that. Thank you, Father God, for the opportunity you've given us as online hosts, people on the front line, if you will, of this church online stuff. And it was an experiment a few months ago, and now it's the Super Bowl. God, it's everything in many ways, and yet we know that you have not changed one bit. God, you are still working through people, in people. You're moving hearts, you're stirring lives. And so, God, would you help us to learn something new, put it into practice, and continue to invite people to engage with us and to learn and know who you are, Jesus. And so it's in your name, Jesus, that we pray and trust that you will do mighty things through Church Online. Amen.
Thanks, Kareem.
Thanks, Graham.
Yeah, thank you.